Jai Jai Shiva Shambho.
Okay. That was a switch. Just like slow.
Yeah, just any way you like. Jai Jai. Just really slow melodies. Not too much, just a little bit. Let me turn this on here too. Okay, great.
Okay, it's on. Okay. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. Mahadeva Shambho. Mahadeva Shambho. Mahadeva Shambho. Mahadeva Shambho. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. Mahadeva Shambho. Mahadeva Shambho. Mahadeva Shambho. Mahadeva Shambho. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. Mahadeva Shambho. Mahadeva Shambho. Mahadeva Shambho. Mahadeva Shambho. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. Jaya Jaya Shiva Shambho. Om.
So, welcome back, everybody. We'll just stay focused in for a little bit. Eyes closed. And I'd like to welcome everybody here this morning. Probably some of us were probably up late last night watching the convention. So, so last week we focused. Really happy Peter was here, and we were focusing on. First, we did a little bit of work, like we have been doing, working within that that archetypal level of the energy, and light and different configurations in a rather direct way. And then we went into a discussion on the nature of the archetypical dimension. that today I'm going to speak about, or a bit more about, Padmasambhava, an existential understanding of Padmasambhava. You know, I mean, we started off a bit not too long ago about the hermeneutics, and the unfolding of meaning and knowledge and experience through time, both personally, everyone's own life is its own little hermeneutic narrative, and in cultures and traditions. And then I've asked you to read a couple of papers that reflect that somewhat. So we had that talk so on hermeneutics, which is ultimately the relationship between our mind and awareness, our culture and this awareness-mind continuum. Because things do change over time. And we focused a couple of weeks ago on the the turning of the dharmic wheel, the unfolding of the wheel, and the first unfolding was the Four Noble Truths, Gautama's, later Shakyamuni Buddha's, but the Four Noble Truths around 500 BC, 400 BC. And then then the 2nd century AD, it's the 1st, 2nd century AD, Narguna, whose name I always trouble saying, but form is emptiness, emptiness is form, and you start going to a more actually, I'll read this a little bit here from many different texts on Gautama's life. This is from Stephen Batchelor, and he describes this. None of the discourses that describe Gautama's awakening so much as mention an unborn, unbecoming, unmade, uncompounded, let alone that realization of it has constituted his awakening. Moreover, the Buddha explicitly declares that what he awoke to was conditioned arising. So a lot of the Four Truths are really about conditioned arising, the very opposite of what is unborn, unbecome, undying, to use that later language. And then we have the discourse on the all, the Sabbe Sutta. Listen, bhikkhus, says Gautama, I will teach you the all. And what is the all? The eye and forms, the ear and sounds, the nose and smells, the tongue and taste, the body and sensation, the mind and its contents. That is called the all. If anyone should say, having rejected this all, I will make known another all, that would be a mere empty boast on his part. If he were questioned, he would not be able to reply, and further would end up frustrated. Why? Because that all would not be within his domain. So Gautama's all is an unsentimental inventory of the fleeting, tragic, impersonal experience. And it goes on about that sort of thing. So you have that first, the Four Truths we won't go over again right now. Then you have this other turning where they start bringing up a base, the Mayamaka teachings of Narguna. And he swam to the Nagas and got this great text, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. And in this frame could not say anything positive about it, but it was more not this, and neither that also. And then there is this knowingness about there's a dimension that is more cosmic, more profound, that is source, okay? Sort of unsaid, but there. Then around the 4th century here, the great Uttara Tantra is formed. This is the third form of the Uttara Tantra. You begin to have the discourse and the language of the Buddha mind, Buddha knowingness, and that everything that this Buddha nature is in everything and anything. It's making explicit now what is the form is emptiness, emptiness is form. What is this? They're talking about the Buddha mind. Uttara Tantra opens that up so magnificent. Hey, welcome. So glad to have you here. Third turning of the wheel. Okay, and yet then, but from a highly idiosyncratic and personal viewpoint of myself, there's the 4th turning. And the 4th turning takes place in the 8th century when in Tibet the Gaudama Tantra comes forth. And of course, the Gaudama Tantra is challenged because it's not in Sanskrit and it's not from Indian Buddhism. It's actually formulated in Tibet, huh? And in the Gautama Tantra, in the same time, Padmasambhava is arising at the same time. His writings, which I'll show you, are some all in the Gaudama Tantra, because in the Gaudama Tantra, you start really having everything is light. Everything is like in the early ones, the Buddha mind was space, and then it starts emerging light, huh? Or as some of the yogis would say, it was incomplete, and now it's the light. And so the Gaudama Tantra is light. Padmasambhava is a master of the light. You guys follow this? Fourth training. So having said that little frame, because things do unfold over time, and this particular format here has Longchenpa's commentary on it, which is so great. It's in this part that I like jumping into Dzogchen, which actually was formulated during this time. So, Padmasambhava was a person, well, lean into each other. And Padmasambhava was a person of great mystery and a great deal of mytholization. Mytholization, yes. He was not from India, even though sometimes they say, oh, he was Indian, and neither was he from Tibet. Where was he from? He lived during the 8th century, and his name symbolized living within the world without being slaved by its vicissitudes. Huh? The lotus born. Living in the world without being enslaved by its vicissitudes, huh? And without being captured by the contained mind and containing circumstances. He was free, huh? Uncontained mind, not being a slave to the circumstances. Self-liberation from the very beginning, huh? So he lived within this space of freedom, and the space of freedom and action within the wild events and times of the 8th century and into the 9th century. Some think he came from the area of Pakistan, and actually Pakistan, Afghanistan. Someone was even shoving me a bit almost into Iran, that whole area, and where the luminous Gnostic views were alive. His thought was Gnostic, and as a Gnostic he understood that humans were beings of light, and the experiential embodiment of the light was self-liberation. And he understood that the knowingness of primordial awareness was the knowingness of direct perception, direct experience, direct awareness. Direct luminous perception as gnosis, direct luminous perception as gnosis, was for Padmasambhava the natural path of self-liberation. Self-liberation arising through self-awareness and or we should say experiential self-awareness and experiential self-recognition. So it's not mere intellectual spotting, of what already is present within us as us. So there's also, in this understanding, it's not just seeds, but as us, as we are, is Buddha nature, divinity, to use that language. And then, to know who you are in essence is to become the wholeness of being itself. And as Herbert Gunther, in his great book on Padmasambhava, some other ones, that he was very interested in who are you? And this he didn't mean the little intellectual exercise, oh, I'm born here, and that cognitive exercise. It can be useful for certain exploitations of a narrative you might be living, but who are you was more to this, the nature of this luminous awareness. And what are you manifesting? Now I'm going to pause here in a minute. I see Anna has just come online. If I can find this little note. Hi, Anna. And the reason I'm pausing here because with Padmasambhava's interest in the who-ness, who are you? And what are you bringing forth? This who-ness, just what is this who-ness? And then you sent me a little note. We did a little piece of work. And so I'm going to read just part of her note because I like how she expresses it. First, she says, I've been pondering how the vertical, and this is what we've been exploring, in looking at awareness in this configuration. It's not much personal narrative goes on here, right? It's not a personal narrative. Not that personal narrative is not useful or psychological, but it's not primarily psychological. It's like the underbelly of the psychology. So, good to see you. I've been pondering how the vertical dimension meeting the horizontal dimension, what that experience is like. So she was sort of feeling the horizontal and the vertical, which many of us have felt here, both the vertical and the horizontal dimension, especially that meeting of the two, opens up a vast kind of impersonal space for me, which is, I guess, Sambhogakaya, Dharmakaya. Then when you ask me, so when she's describing entering the impersonal space, I then ask her, can you feel me personally? A question I often ask. Now, this is not really c'est moi, okay? But can you feel me personally? And then she says, I found I could, although not in terms of psychology. It was as if the dimensions became embodied in me. Feeling you personally had me aware of what was personal in me, right? The who-ness in me. And it felt like the who-ness really was the key for me bringing the openness and the light through me in the session in a slightly different way than what I've experienced before. So when that question was raised to her, and she is in the awareness field, but it's manifesting itself in the impersonal dimension, right? So I simply asked her, well, can you feel me? And if it was Patricia, she could say, can you feel me? If it was you, you say, can you feel me? You with me? And in that languaging, if I'm in that state and I'm feeling that impersonal open space with the vertical horizon, both which support each other, but it's a beginning support, and you ask me, can I feel you? If I could enter into feeling you in that space, because that space is non-dual, though impersonal, and at that point, the who-ness would arise. And then, what's so interesting, in experiencing the who-ness, I begin experiencing a new intimacy with life through me in the session in a slightly different way than what I've experienced before. A new intimacy with life on all levels seemed to be emerging, closeness to everything through this non-psychological experience of the personal. I'm still not quite understanding it. How are you doing? Have you done some further play with this experiencing of this wholeness that is not psychological?
Yeah, I've been teaching movement meditation, and I've been trying to experiment with bringing some of that into the group to join the vertical and the horizontal and the wholeness and in me and in the others, it feels like there is this increased unity, or the word that keeps coming is intimacy, because and it goes through feeling each other, to actually sensing feeling, but not thinking about it. I don't know, I'm still not quite, I cannot intellectualize it, but I do feel more in the part of everything, or in the flow of everything, or close to everything.
Closer. Right. Thank you. So I'm going to now continue on with this a little bit more. Everybody following this what we're talking about here a bit? So to know who you are, in essence, is to become the who-ness of being itself. Now, and you'll see this in some of the writings where this arises. Now, for a pause for a moment, because you know a lot of this is also influenced by because all these were neighbors. The Hindus and Buddhists were neighbors. Well, not in Tibet, but there were people going back and forth. These teachers would go back and forth. So in Indian philosophy, there is the Purusha. The Purusha. Now the Purusha is a who. The Purusha as the tattvas unfold, as awareness unfolds, as it unfolds, aham, I am, that I am, as it unfolds, becoming more and more flesh and mind, as it unfolds, the unfolding where the Purusha comes into existence. The Purusha is a very important moment. And time and the Purusha come in simultaneously. You don't have to buy any of this, of course. So the Purusha, and the Purusha has many different meanings in certain forms of Hinduism. In the Vedas, it means something a little different than the Upanishads. In the Upanishads, it means a little different than the Tantras, like the Shaivite Tantras, the Vaishnava Tantras. I'm not going to you have to learn anything, but just that this is a key word that has many metaphors, because it is I-ness. Who am I? It is the I-ness. And one expression, especially in the Vedas, or in the Tantras also, it has the meaning of being the blue person. It means the Purusha, the blue person. And the blue person is both masculine and feminine simultaneously. You with me? And you can hear Jung speaking about that importance of integrating these polarities, the energies. But the blue person is also, at one level, it is Shiva. I am Shiva, who's also blue, right? And then at another level, it is the light of awareness becoming the Purusha at the more level of I consciousness as person. But the I consciousness of the Purusha is not a psychological thing. If you can hold that a moment, psychology forms a little bit down the line. So the Purusha, the who, is personal, as who is personal, but it's not psychological personal. You with me? Because psychology, in the unfolding of the incarnation of humanness, comes after the Purusha is there. Raise your hands if you understand that a little bit without buying it. You with me? Because who cares if we believe it or not, right? I believe it. Okay, good deal. So, but in the experience, you follow me, Anna? So the Purusha is perhaps what we're talking about here as we experience that who-ness that is so vast, so open, knowingness, and yet it's not witness consciousness, which is further down the food chain, okay? And it is not my little psychological mind, with a certain historical thing and generational field and this and that in my little psychological mind, but it is the who-ness. So there is a who that is our mind alone, but as we work and shift, we then become this who-ness, And this who-ness of the Purusha is the opening for the big run. But it's not psychology. It is no longer in the ego. Say yes if that's making sense. This is the kingdom of Padmasambhava. Okay? So, strangely, much of... Oh yeah, he goes on. Here we go. So, Padmasambhava lived in the realm of the Siddhas. And the Siddha traditions did actually take place also in Tibetan Buddhism and Indian Buddhism, the realm of the Siddha Loka. And wherever he was, he would say this, that realm manifested in its completeness. So wherever he was, that realm. And that's why when you meet Siddha Masters, wherever they are, that realm, you're in that realm in all its directness. So he would suggest that wherever and whenever he was invoked, he would always say, invoke me, that realm would become manifest. And he was a master of manifestation. His expression of the Vajrayana was shamanistic and inclusive of the power of invocation. So when you read Padmasambhava's life, he's invoking these energies for good and for doing this. He was a master of the power of invocation, right? So, if you wanted to think of things this way, he would say, you can either have a dualistic or non-dual relationship with the divine. if I'm having a dualistic relationship, which is a lot of fun, I'll be praying to the divine. You with me? Or honoring the divine, right? Whether in person or in thought. But in the non-dual state, I'm invoking that in myself as myself. Then I am God. I am the divine. And that power of invocation, So invoking at the level of that which is being invoked. We're learning to invoke at the level of that which is being invoked. Now, strangely, most of his works are seldom quoted by the new translation traditions and the lineages of Tibetan Buddhism, even though he's always symbolically praised by all the various traditions and lineages. So Padmasambhava is always honored in all the traditions, but mostly in all the traditions is also usually a founder of the different lineages. You with me? So Padmasambhava is in the back there as the one who brought this to Tibet. But within that you have different lineages. So in the Galupa you have Tsongkhapa. My Tibetan is really pretty bad. And then you have Marpa and the Kagyu traditions. And so different traditions, you have different masters who arose and helped bring that tradition forth. Okay? You guys follow this? Rambling a little bit? His writings are experiential and existential in nature. He articulates spiritual experience in the most direct and poetic manner. And you can just feel that energy because he's coming through of the guru, primordial guru as Padmasambhava. He speaks from within his own experience, and his language communicates the felt sense of his experience, and is rich in symbolism, which is both sensuous and dramatic. He is totally in this world, and yet not enslaved. He was liberated. He gives a poetic and imaginative view. And we think when we use the imaginative here last week, as Peter was describing that imaginative view, the Sambhogakaya view, as Henry Corbin would describe it. So you're in that Sambhogakaya vision, and then you see the translucidity of everything and anything with all the configurations. You guys follow this? Mm-hmm. So he gives a poetic and imaginative view of the subtle, luminous universe of light and energy. There's some text specifically on the energies. This light and energy is experienced both in the relational world of the flesh, Nirmanakaya, as well as the archetypical vortexual realms expressed as the deities and dakinis, Sambhogakaya manifestation. And the Dharmakaya is the realm of pure potentiality within which and from which everything and anything manifests. We emerge from within the Dharmakaya and we dissolve within the Dharmakaya. Sometimes we have fantasies that if we leave the Dharmakaya to become Nirmanakaya. That's a fantasy. We are always within the Dharmakaya, manifesting within Dharmakaya as Sambhogakaya and manifesting within as Nirmanakaya. And so we're learning how to work with each other to work within the Sambhogakaya dimension, okay? More or less. Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya. Say yes if that's making a little bit of sense. Sort of, So we emerge from within the Dharmakaya and dissolve within the Dharmakaya. And then we re-emerge again and dissolve again and again. Life after life, death after death. This is a little bit different than the earliest first formulation, Even the Mayamaka will say they don't use the word dissolve or re-emerge. They use the word cessation. There's a bit more finality, cessation, gone. In fact, the early Buddhists were very concerned when Sakyamuni, thus gone, actually left, when he actually died. And what were they to do? He's gone now. Are you with me? So there's a lot of trying to contain the relics. But what? And then you can see how the human awareness, struggling with that, and having experiences, would open up to a more dimensional view of human existence. Less spiritual, materialistic view. His abiding existential understanding is this whodness who we are and the whodness we are manifesting and bringing forth in our life. We bring forth life after life and death after death. His confidence is that in the essence we are unborn and undying, and we emerge life after life and death after death. I always like that because that's what Swami Muktananda also told me that day that I asked him that question. Huh? Get beyond your mind. He had this awesome power of extending. He also had this awesome power of extending the field of light and energy, as well as the power to dissolve and liberate demonic forces through the extension of his field of light and energy. Huh? So he brought forth the Vajrakalaya with two other masters, huh? Including Yeshitogo, the action of the Purba for cutting through obstacles, circumstances, demonic embodiments, huh? Liberating the embodiments. You with me? He was tough. He was tough. He was compassionate. And he was free. He had this awesome power of extending the field of light and energy, as well as the power to dissolve and liberate demonic forces through the extension of this field of light and energy. He was, as he's also called, the protector, the great protector. You know, and sometimes you hear people calling their teachers the protector. Lama Tarjan often called Tinda the protector, but in the same understanding, the same embodiment of, or as Swami Muktananda would say, if the Guru can't help you in your life, it doesn't protect you in your life and in death, what good is the Guru? And he would mean that with force. What good is this if it doesn't protect you? So we invoke that protection. Huh? His visionary experiences of the imaginative nature, again using Henry Corbin's language, where the experience is luminously subtle, and the poetic language expresses what is beyond logic and linear, objectifying rational mind. So like that little discussion right here, this is not a linear discussion that Anna and I are having at all, and it has very little objectification to it. The more it becomes objectified, then the phenomena itself disappears. There's no, Padmasambhava, as we go through, gives a rough time to our rational minds, as he does. There's no superego encapsulating and containing Padmasambhava. None. And he was never bound by annihilation anxiety or terror of deprivation. He was neither weak nor passive. He was magically in this, I speak of the Vajrayana as magic. He was magically in this use of this power of invocation of the luminous archetypical energies. He kept bringing these archetypical energies into the Manakaya dimension and reorganizing what's taking place. His understanding is anthropocosmic. Sort of a made-up word, but it's really anthropocosmic, huh? Cosmic humanness. Human beingness is the center of his understanding, and his work is a form of ageless mystical humanism within the context of luminous pantheism, in which everything and anything is divine light. Everything and everyone is light, and all events are the unfolding of the light as forms. So really here, like the early thing, emptiness is form, and form is emptiness. You hear it now, so you may say emptiness is light, and light is emptiness in this fourth turning. His expression, his understanding is distinctly a Gnostic understanding. That's what Herbert Gunther would always say. Where's all this theology of light coming through in this place? You with me? And that human beings are beings of light who have contained and containing rational minds. So we're these beings of light who have these very contained and containing rational minds. He had great love of the natural power of direct knowingness as unbound gnosis, and he understood that everyone has this innate nature of primordial awareness and the power of invocation. Not just the power of identifying with the deities or the energies, like a psychological moment, CBT at the level, but the power of invocating these dimensions in ourselves. That's why the energy arises and the power of the invocations. Our humanness emerges out of this innate potentiality, just as dogness arises out of the innate potentiality that we're essentially aura. We're both manifested from primordial awareness and manifesting primordial awareness as our lives enact. We're both manifested and manifesting here. We're both the manifester and the manifesting. We're ground awareness, and we're also who-ness here and now. This primordial awareness is both spaciousness and light, and the primordial awareness is also energy and the resonance of compassion. Everybody going to sleep right now? But it will stop soon then. This manifesting is not our mind alone. So it's not just my little mind, thinking mind is manifesting everything in certain forms of idealistic thinking. It's all a function of my tiny brain. But primordial awareness manifesting everything and anything, including our minds, bodies, and subjectivity itself. And Padmasambhava would call it the wholeness. The wholeness is the manifesting. This dynamic potential expresses itself in living symbols and living icons of translucidity. So here everybody's an icon of translucidity. The experience is not mind alone, such as our mind of thinking, feeling, sensation, memory, or fantasy. That's the one Gautama was talking about. This mind is secondary phenomena to the dimension of awareness. Ego-logical self is mine, is emergent from within this larger field of awareness itself, which is manifesting in time and space. This awareness is multidimensional and simultaneously beyond time and beyond space, and yet in time and space. We are timeless awareness, and we're timeless light. Padmasambhava named this as Sningpo. I just love this word for some reason. S-N-Y-I-N-G Po. Sningpo, which means sheer intensity. This is not the cool lake. Sheer intensity, or individuated energy, or the creative force of Vortexuous. So now we have a language coming in here, another language that's holding the dynamics of life, the wildlife of the 8th century. Creative forces. This is similar to what Jung would call psychic energy or psyche, or the Gnostics called the plenuma, right? The fullness as no thingness, and no thingness as fullness. Everybody up right now? His teaching is luminous mystical humanism, in which we can experience the unfolding of luminous elementalness as universe, as pervasive divinity. The unfolding, it's always unfolding. It's unfolding right here now as we're sitting here. It's unfolding. The elementalness, So the rays start to become, right? The light becomes the different rays. And the elements are the lights. And then they start actually becoming like, the sun becomes gold, you with me, to use that in a concrete way. And the lights and space. And the elementals are also the Dakinis, right? The elements are the Dakinis in Vajrayana. So, and the Buddha family. So we're working with the elementals. So that little piece of work that like we've been playing with the past weeks, like Anno and I we've been playing with, is more elemental than simply my psychological mind. Say yes if you're finding that. It's more elemental. Now, okay, let's continue on here. So his teaching is luminous mystical humanism, in which we can experience the unfolding of luminous elementalness as universe, as pervasive divinity. So everything is pervasive divinity, and this is why it's now a form of pantheism. The dynamics of this intensity, here we go, the dynamics of this intensity through human experience and all forms and all symbols or of a luminous, radiant quality. Radiance. The universe is radiant light energy. As experiences, that's us, we're the experiences. We're already luminous beings living in the immediacy of these universal energies. We are in-worlded, a word I like. We're in-worlded, whether you like it or not. If you think you're not here, you are. You're in-worlded. Even if we think we're not, we are in-worlded. It has a lot of different dimensions to it. And the immediacy, blah, blah, blah. And as experience, we are already luminous beings living in the immediacy of these universal energies. We are in-worlded and live within this luminous, sensuous nature as space and place. The immediacy of sheer experience is found nowhere else but within our daily experience and within the ever-present translucent symbolic reality of all that is. This symbolic reality is not mathic, it's not my mind. It is a symbolic viewing. It is the direct viewing of the actuality of the symbolic world, of the configuration, of the Sambhogakaya dimension. Symbolic is, all these words mean different things depending, it's actually saying that. So that little description would be a symbolic, part of symbolic reality. But it's not symbolizing something other than its own self. Say yes, you guys can. So the symbolic is not simply mental, but it's archetypical configurational actualities that are present in us. We enter in them and they in us. His teachings are free of rational legalistic thought, and he often characterizes the human person as, no offense, the little man. Come here, little man. So he has his own little, how can I say, he could poke at times, the little man, who is the wholeness of self-manifesting light. So there as we are, with our little minds, and yet the wholeness, this who is the wholeness of self-manifesting light. Now that's quite a spot to be in, huh? You got this little tiny rationalistic, legalistic mind, right? With layers of generational shit behind it, okay? And here you're the wholeness of manifesting light. This is a tough spot to be in. It's going to cause intensity, huh? Let's see what happens next. The primordial field of ground awareness manifesting individual fields of brilliance and radiance. The emergence of the wholeness is the self-manifestation of radiant light. And just as the intensity energy is the sun, the rays continue to shine forth unceasingly within infinite space, so too within the field of primordial awareness that is both spaciousness and radiance. All this light is coming through it, manifesting stuff, becoming dogs and cars and what's the guy running for president? Trump. I heard a great thing last night. The mayor of Philadelphia. Now the mayors of Philadelphia have always had suspicious backgrounds, if you don't know much about Philadelphia. But this is an interesting mayor, and the mayor is saying, they asked him about what does he think about Trump. He says, well, in his city, so he says, you know, when my kid was growing up and identified with this, he said, I used to think all these kids would all go to the wrestling matches on Saturday afternoon. And there was Ed McMahon, the world. He says, this is exactly like the World Wrestling Federation. In fact, he looks like Ed McMahon. And in fact, all the people there look like the people at the Republican convention. Huh?
Trump has a background with that fake wrestling.
Oh, does he really?
Absolutely, yes. That's what propelled him into reality television and where he is today. Started in that world.
This is, that's amazing. How do you know these things? Thank you. That's really great. That is really wow, because it fits so well. Okay. So there are infinite fields within the primordial field, and the sacred mandala, which is symbolic of the universal field. Again, by symbolic, it doesn't mean it's referring to something other. It is the universal field in the moment, huh? Invoked, and not invoked, implicit. So here's the important part. So from within this intensity, energy, Sing Po, the rays of light burst forth as the personal experiencer of awareness. That's who we are. Rays of light bursting forth as the personal experience of awareness and within the phenomenal world within which we become aware. So whenever the whole gives birth to thoughts and to meaning, I thought I was giving birth to all these thoughts and meaning. I mean, it's all being given birth, including my own subjectivity and the thoughts, and everything is being just given. Okay. Wherever the whole gives birth to thoughts and to meaning, there is light. The innermost light is the radiance of the sun, and the radiance of the moon is this innate intrinsic awareness. Radiance is both source and expression, and so the expanse of the whole is the field of awareness as the intensity and as the energy of light. Can you feel this possibility for you in own little life? Everything and anything owes its existence to this intensity of this luminous energy. The symbol and self-revelation of the whole is the primordial guru, meaning from darkness to light, the guru. The very nature of this intensity, energy, has no origin and is beginningless beginning, and is manifesting itself within the branching or the extensions of the rays of luminous energy. The mind or the ego, as the logical sense of self, is easily disorganized. And easily, and this is all naturalistic now, okay? This is not DSM-5. And if I can find my space again. The mind and ego, as logical sense of self, is easily disorganized and easily disintegrates, and is relentlessly shaken by the fragmentalizing tendencies of the luminous energy intensity, resulting in the unfolding process of integration and disintegration. Naturally integrating, naturally disintegrating. Naturally appearing and naturally disappearing, naturally manifesting and falling apart, is completely intrinsic to all human experience, to the experiencer. Awareness itself fragments us and breaks us and self-illuminates us and liberates us. Do you like that? Awareness itself fragments us, breaks us, self-illuminates us, liberates us. There's little and minimal experiential understanding. Just think of that. Just think how that is understood. There's this vast luminous field of knowingness beyond our contained mind. The sense of being mind alone can feel like being contained and bound solipsistically in a box. That's why often you'll see in some of these great tantric texts, which I love, the practices, there's always the little amulet box opens, and then it all opens up. The box opens. Now, that sounds like a nice thing, the box, but actually the box will be going, then it opens, huh? Awareness, okay, so through the dissolving of our, this is problem. Through the dissolving of our aversion to the vast luminosity. What? We have aversion to the, I can't believe this, to the vast luminosity, the terror of the light. The terror of the light. When João de Deus was here, he spoke about the terror of the light. Is to be a shaman, you have to hold the terror of the light. What does he mean by that? The dissolving of aversion to the vast luminosity, the terror of luminosity, the experiential emergence of the awareness field happens. And the brightness emerges as unbound completeness. The brightness emerges as unbound completeness. And the abyss of darkness is eliminated. Dissolved. the elements of the light. The elementalness as light is also the Gnostic understanding of Valencian. Valencian was a great Gnostic, one of the greatest of the Gnostic masters, around the 3rd and 4th century. But like a lot of great Gnostic masters, he had a bad outcome with the newly formed Holy Roman Emperor Catholic Church, okay? And so you have an early battle, the history of the early Gnostics and of the Christ. And actually, ISIS was killing the Syrian Gnostics, the Catholics that were being slaughtered in Syria by the ISIS, or these particular Syrian Gnostics. Been there for centuries and centuries and centuries. They all were very great Gnostic people and Gnostic masters. They were particularly picked out by ISIS to be killed, right? You've seen some of the Christians, they were also mostly young men, but this was primarily the Gnostic type. So in this whole Orthodox Christian group has a Gnostic pull to it in Orthodox Christianity, and goes back into all these little groups that were by themselves. You guys follow this sort of thinking? It's very good to think comparatively, isn't it? You know, if you don't think comparatively, you will grow up looking like a catechism. I'm serious. You just have a catechism type mind. You with me? And a catechism type mind will give you something. It'll give you security, but it will not give you illumination. You'll get security. You'll get virtue, but virtue is not illumination. It's really a Dzogchen understanding. Virtue, self-liberation, is not simply a function of virtue. This is good because a lot of people who have virtue suffer a hell of a lot. You would think, I always thought that was pretty shitty. All these virtuous people suffering. And a lot of the bad people I knew were doing pretty well. But each has its own rewards in its own way. But let's not consider virtue. And virtue is a source of liberation. It can be a source, but you have to really work with it. You guys follow what I mean by that? Yes, please.
It's a real push-pull between duality and non-duality.
It is a push-pull between duality and non-duality. And that's why it's very, very hard. I've seen people, been very fortunate, very talented people like who have visions of the Divine Mother. And they have visions of the Divine Mother. And the vision of the Mother keeps beckoning them. Mary has a role in this place, right? To become her, come into me. And that's the terror of the light right there. They become totally, this is not talking arrogantly at all. This is a serious drama taking place. And without a context to understand it, that invocation of Mary to come forward and become her is totally, completely terrifying. As terrifying. And at that point, what do people do? We run. We just take off. That's it. Got to do my laundry. I'm out of here. So Valencia, yes, please.
What you're speaking of reminds me of what Peter was talking about last week, about people being the tension of the opposites.
Yes.
Like when you talked about holding the light and the terror at the same time.
Simultaneously.
And the other thing I was going to say, when you were talking about catechism versus comparison,
Yep.
having a creative mind that's assimilating versus just following the doctrine. The movie The Innocents, if people haven't seen it, is really depicts that beautifully.
Great. I'd like to get that. That was the movie called.
It's at the movie theaters now.
Great. Thank you. There was a movie called The Giver. And it's about the giver and how to relate to the giver. It's very, very, very powerful. And you get it on. So let me continue on here just for a moment now. So the Valencian and the Neoplatonic understanding in this elemental is central to Padmasambhava's writings. Elementalness is vortexual and feminine. So everything is alive. You can see this battle at times, talk about the polarities between the masculine and the feminine as the law. Often, in even psychoanalytic thinking, the law is the father. Are you with me? And the feminine is the effulgent. So everything is alive, moving, and translucent, almost over, and there's a ceaseless unfolding of the translucidity of mind and translucidity of appearances. Padmasambhava's creative understanding is completely his own, and it really, suddenly you have this thing, and it's where did this come from? What is this? Are you with me? You don't. It's really hard to see there's some leaping that he does, and he creates the method of leaping into the light. And leaping brings us easily into the completeness of self-luminosity. So a lot of the leaping things of Dzogchen, you leap, it's what they call leaping. You leap into the light. You gaze into the light and you leap into the light, huh? And the mind is as it is, and the mind is not the source of liberation. The mind is a box that will be broken open to the infinite field of light. The light is both, and here the mind can be used different ways from Sems and Semde, which has been through many times here. The light is both the source and the result of self-liberation. In his great text on Padmasambhava, Herbert Gunther, who I love a lot, he's one of the people I wish I had met. It was Herbert Gunther. I wish I had met him. Presents some of the existential understanding of Padmasambhava as follows. We're almost through this. Let's breathe for a little bit more. The human person is a cosmic whole, W-H-O-L-E. And who was it was mentioning hold? Someone was experiencing the wholeness. That was you experiencing the wholeness when we went into that. Yes. So you were really talking that language of wholeness. You with me? Which is totality, which is actually in this frame Padmasambhava language. Totally the totality. You with me? And it's really, that moment was so great. Almost there again. So the human person is cosmic, whole self-manifesting of light in singularity. So the Padmasambhava takes singularity. The self-arising of the light breaks the mentalistic frames. You know? The breaking of mentalistic frames. Which have contained spiritual pursuit as beliefs of representational mind, and the self-arising of the light destroys representational thought and replaces belief with wild, unbinding, and unbounded experience. So Dharma is not a notion. See, I'm giving all these little notions. That's not really the Dharma, right? Dharma is not a notion. And Dharma is not dogma. What? When things become dogma, the Dharma can slip away. The experiential directness. Mind's a tricky thing, isn't it? You need some pointing out. But if you believe it too hardly and you make it a thing, it then disappears. Yeah. And you're just a chunk of thingness. Yeah. And then you get very disappointed. Because thing and doubt are intimately related. Through the unfolding of the light of awareness, the vast light as innate core of all is exposed and revealed. The unfolding of the light is the self-revelation of the innate guru or Buddha. The unfolding of awareness brings a person into existential authenticity, and this authenticity is manifested with immediacy and suddenness. It's always very sudden. And authenticity here means, okay, this is my authentic feeling. I'm now going to tell you what I'm feeling today about you. Are you ready? Okay, I'm ready. And there's some truth to that a bit. But the authenticity of Padmasambhava is the authenticity of experiencing the primordial awareness as a who, as you. Who-ness, Purusha, opening. Huh? Totality. Now almost done. The totality of that which exists is without exception light. The totality of that which exists is without exception light. That's a pretty powerful statement there, huh? The whole of intensity energy, Snigpo, becomes a vortexual light and appears as bindus and circles of light. So here we go into the whole bindu thing, the tiglays. That's why to see the bindus, right? To see the bindus and to see these circles of light merging in you and around you is seeing divinity itself manifesting. And it is you. But it is you as you, but it's not seeing a projection of you. Sometimes you hear certain frames. Oh, it's a projection of the inner light alone. No. You are seeing the light, which is you. but it's not like a projection of you. It's not the same thing as projection. It is seeing the totality at that moment. And sometimes you just, as an ordinary person, you look into this, you gaze into the sky, or you gaze into your room, or you just gaze right now. Just gazing. Because gazing requires some suspension of mind. It is very hard to gaze without some suspension of mind. Or if you are gazing and you can integrate your mind into the gaze, then you really have something. Because when your mind and your awareness are in that non-dual state with each other, then that is liberation. Just how much you really are feeling. Because you can see and hear stuff, but it's all felt within that light. Almost done. The primordial ground of being is the ground of radiance. So when you see those bindus, the blue pearls, those blue lights, some you see them flashing forward, sometimes you see them on people's clothes, sometimes you just see them carrying. That is really an opening of the resonance of the great compassion manifesting herself to you in a very direct and explicit way. The primordial ground of being is the ground of radiance and spaciousness. The primordial ground of being is also the ground of gnosis, jnana yeshe, or knowingness. This means that the totality of all that is indivisible and undetermined, and there's this ceaseless, spontaneous, non-conceptual happening that is opening, shining, giving, manifesting everything and anything in a rather indeterminate way or undetermined way. I don't know if we'll find out if he says this here, but part of liberation is the freedom of living in indeterminate space. Liberation is the freedom of living in indeterminate space. Huh? So the cosmological hold is intensity's energy, becoming luminous vortexes of radiance, giving birth to thoughts and language and to human meaning. So the very light itself is giving meaning to my mind and giving meaning to experience. It is being created by the light. So the self-illuminating experience of awareness outshines all. Here's a little infomercial he's making here. The self-illuminating experience of awareness outshines all other spiritual paths by brilliance and radiance and naturalness. This SPY SIGPE experience is unfolding completeness with the being within the being of experiences. Within this personal experience of manifestation of the cosmological holds intensity energy, there is no judgment as to fault or to virtue, no right or wrong, no truth or falsity. Non-judgmentalness does not mean being without the discrimination of direct perception. Padmasambhava's opinion of a person's mind is that the mind, with its dichotomizing activities, has a person take positions opposing reality, and nonetheless the laws and ways of rational consciousness narrows realities and impoverishes and encloses it with its own enclosure. The mind cannot grasp the nature of awareness, and the mind alone cannot grasp the intensity, energy, luminosity of everything and anything. The mind cannot grasp being and cannot grasp the beingness of being. The mind can appreciate form and detail and particularity and singularity. The mind can grasp differences. Awareness can experience awareness in the qualities of awareness. Awareness experiences being in the beingness of being. Padmasambhava is unbound by rationality, by linear logicalness, and the institutionalization that follows. He has direct speech arising out of direct perception. He lives within timeless awareness within time. His actions arise out of timeless awareness into time. He knows that the unfolding of the experience of the wholeness of intrinsic purity and unbound loosening up. He's into loosening up and freeing openness, that all loosening up can be felt like disintegration, and the intensity can drive a person into madness. Meaning that this relationship being in the world can really drive us crazy. Or as Swami Muktananda would always say, everybody's nuts. Now there's a truth to that. Let me see, anybody not nuts? Everybody's rather nuts, you know that, right? You may have noticed that, at least in some fashion. And the light itself can drive us nuts. So Arath and Thanatos converge and emerge simultaneous, and self-realization is embodied. Maybe that's enough for right now. We've done a long time with this little talk this morning, and we'll finish it up next week of Padmasambhava. How you doing, Anna?
Good.
So let's hold awareness together for a moment. You can see how Padmasambhava, how much is historical and how much is really the articulation of the primordial guru, huh? How he embodies that so completely, huh? And one of the reasons I like Padmasambhava is having known Swami Muktananda, then when I ran into Padmasambhava, I felt that primordial dimension arising, huh? Which I liked a lot. So we'll focus. So let's enter awareness again with each other. Now I'm going to give this microphone to Skip. You mind holding it in your hand? You and I haven't worked out loud here, have we? This way?
Yes,
We did?
a while ago with the
Okay,
energy
good.
moving through.
Good. So what are you with right now? What's arising?
When you gave me the microphone, the breathless breath was arising. I was just in it.
Great. So let's just stay with that breathless breath. And I also have sent out some papers on the breathless breath, some classical papers, and they are cool. And you might, I'll tell you more about that later. But the breathless breath is part of this at times, isn't it? And are you still in the breathless breath?
In it and then out of it and then back in it.
So it's interesting how we're in stuff and then we're out of it and we're in it. And that process of in and out is the natural process of what is called the abhasa. And so just hang out with me for a moment. The abhasa means this in and out. It's like what they also call spurta, S-P-H-U-R-T-A. Spurta means you come out and you come back in. It's like a spot of light. It's like a flash of light or a flash of energy or a flash of sound. So as we go in and then we go out, or we go out and come in, we do not want to get stuck on the process of opening and closing, of shining forth or going back, or even appearing or disappearing. So you just follow that all the way to death itself. You follow me? The opening, the closing, the spurter, here I am, now I'm going, the breathless breath, appearing, disappearing. Say yes if that's making sense. The natural opening. Stability is not being in one spot forever and ever. That is not stability. That is a fixated state. You with me? And fixation, as some of the great yogis say, is what we're trying to dissolve. How are you doing now, Skip?
So the word I would use would be sort of embracing
Embrace it.
that, I forgot the word you used, but that in and out process
Mm-hmm.
as a whole.
As a whole. So what's it like to feel the wholeness of the process, to use that language? Whole.
There's more spaciousness.
Mhm.
There's more light.
Can you feel me right now?
Mm-hmm.
What's it like as you feel me right now? The base of that wholeness is, it's not solid, it's more present. So the base is becoming more present. Some even people call it the baseless base, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the base is becoming more present. So you can feel the base arising more now. let's just hang out with that. What's it like to feel the bass becoming more present, the presencing of the bass?
So it's it's very strange. It's I'm also experiencing it in my body.
I'm now experiencing it in my body. I'm embodying the brace.
And
Embodying the bass.
experience it in the lower centers of the lower half of the sphere. I don't know what to call it. It's not chakras. It's
No, it's not chocolate. This is
Yeah.
SPH here, the sphere-like quality. Something called the roundness, okay?
Mhm.
In other words, the roundness you'll see. So now you're embodying that, okay? So everything is the classical language of this embodiment process, which is our process of realization. Process of realization. There's no one way, right? Now, what's it like to rest in that? To rest in that base, that sphere.
there's it's like this simultaneous. There's a lot of earth, a lot of fire, in a from being in church, the peace that goes beyond understanding. So it's like there's that level of peace and just this roaring fire.
Great. There is that great talk by Buddha, and I'm actually going to bring in a text next week on Buddha's life. But it's not the Buddha's life that's necessarily historically like these texts. It's Buddha's life as fire, and how his whole life was fire with me. And so again, the primordial guru as a being, as fire. And also from this life, he gave the fire sermon. Okay, the fire element. Okay. So what's it like to feel this earth and fire, and yet this peace that's there right now?
It's very, very intense. There's a lot of light, and I sort of thought I was already in a certain unbounded spaciousness, but it needs to be more unbounded to stay with it.
Beautifully described. So that peace that is beyond peace is the peace that can be attained by all of us. Because when we think the circumstances, we just got to get the right circumstances, then we're going to have peace, or the right lake, or the right this, or right that. That will never, ever happen. Or the right organization, or the right group. That will never, ever happen. That looking for peace that way will never, ever, 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 ever take place. But the peace that Skip is describing in the fire and the earth, that is taking place. So that peace arises in the tension of concept of peace. You having a good time right now?
Yes, and the best word I can. There's a certain invitation, pull, call. I don't know what it is.
A pull, call, invocation.
To go further,
Let's go further then. Just go with it.
and there's a little terror that comes up with it.
It's really good to get used to Tara.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's useful to get used to Tara.
And then just and the tear is just part of that in and out. That's so it's held within the whole. I can't. It's hard to describe.
So I'm gonna pass the microphone now, if you like. And I'm just gonna ask maybe everybody just to describe where they're at right now. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Just briefly, where you at? So we say it in New Orleans. Where you at?
Just allowing that unfolding and the totality of the becoming and dissolving. If I focus on the process, then it condenses and everything becomes much more concrete. If I just allow it, then it expands out and the elemental feel of it expands into that spaciousness. So the fire becomes more brilliant, the earth more grounded, the air. I mean, what is it? The Panama that which comes through, and the water element of that liquidity within my body becomes all of that becomes more apparent, and within that there's an incredible sensuality and deliciousness and just vibrancy.
Let's just say I'm really so glad she's using the word sensuality. And there's another one you also, and deliciousness, huh? Because there's that deliciousness and the sensuality of the field of being that can take place even when our bodies are falling apart. You with me? And that is a very exquisitely strange moment, because so even, and this is not antibody at all, this is not antibody talk, okay, which is so easily in spiritual endeavors, the ancient antibody stuff, because people didn't want to be here, bad times. But that embodiment of the sphere of awareness with its sensuousness is an inner sensuousness that is held by the body, but not specifically the body itself. And there's a really useful and important understanding. The inner sensuousness, the inner, almost like a fragrance, that inner sensuousness is the embodiment of awareness in this dimension, even when our body itself, the meat, the char, the flesh, to use Merleau-Ponty's language, is different than another French word for body. And the French, who? Corps. Yes, it's different. So this flesh can have this sensuousness. So we have to be careful that certain prejudices in our mind, because our body's getting fucked up, we think we've had it. You with me? And in terms of dealing with pain, this is a useful understanding why awareness itself, in and of itself, can bring forth bliss and pleasure in spite of what's taking place with the body. Say yes if this is making some sense to you, okay? This is not magical thinking, but it really is why this is such a really great gift to be able to have these experiences arising in ourselves. Yes, next person, thank you so much. And most of the stuff arises because people are talking, and then we can talk about it. So out of the guru is what's arising out of our experience, so that we can talk about what's arising as revelation. Yes, next person.
I'm really trying to radically get rid of all that stuff that is the I don't know how to put this, what is intrinsic to the experience of the field? What is intrinsic to the experience of all of this expansion? What's intrinsic to this, and what is an overlay that I'm putting on it? And so, for example, it feels right now like anxiety is an overlay. Anxiety does not feel intrinsic to it. It's the anxiety and the terror of disintegration. They feel like not an intrinsic part of the entire experience.
Now, just say so what for a second.
Okay.
Just say so what.
So what?
Now, what happens next?
What happens next is a disintegration of what I was doing.
And right now, what is that?
It is laughter. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. And it's laughter as expansion, and it's letting go of it's letting go of categories.
Right. And I'm going to make a comment to you, just a passing comment,
Mhm.
maybe not be true. A key word when I was just reading some of Padmasambhava's words was singularity. It all manifests in singularity, even totality in a moment. So singularity, suppose it's all singularity. Just for a moment, suppose it's all singularity. And what is added is when we abstract it from singularity. But I wouldn't worry about this too much. What's happening for you now?
An almost cleansing bafflement.
I think you once saw a deity arising on a lake.
Oh, very much so. Yes.
That was a singular moment, wasn't it?
Very much. Yes. It was one of the great defining moments of my life. Yeah.
Suppose that's all that was at that moment. Wait a minute. Suppose that's all that was at that moment.
It is all that was at that moment.
Period.
Yeah.
So let us say that what you and I are dissolving is abstraction today. And sometimes abstraction is useful, but sometimes it is a distraction. Is that okay?
That's good. Yeah.
Then we'll pass our mic to the next person.
I didn't get all that, but that's okay.
The experience you had a couple of weeks ago in your totality
Yes,
was completely singular, yet
yes, yes, yes.
and that's all that was.
Yes.
And how are you doing right now?
Well, I was having the experience when you were working with Skip of having, the elements of water and air and earth being very much a part of my experience. And then he was talking so much of fire, which I wasn't experiencing really at all. And then I leaned into him and things began to really heat up. So that was, and then the heat became dominant. So it was,
And what's that like? Was that
Um, well, it was, it was like being able to just move with what is rather than holding on to what was.
And what's it like for you to be moving with what is, just as it is? Or is it?
I feel then much more present and embodying what is. Like again, it becomes the totality.
What's it like to feel that embodying thing? What's it like to feel that?
Well, I want to say it feels much more real.
Yes, it is much more real.
Mm.
And Papa Sababa was a master of the real. The more that you embody, it's like who-ness felt more real, you with me. Or she felt more closest. Real is a function of embodiment. To feel the real, the actuality of when the essence is embodied in presence.
The other piece of it that I've noticed in this embodying the sense of the total is that it's so different from what I used to experience in terms of just simply the verticality of things and more that, like you said earlier, working up the chakras, the energy being more
Right.
vertical. This has such a different sense to it that it's just a filling up it's like it just fills up the wholeness in that very sort of spherical way. It isn't vertical, it's not horizontal, it's just it's just a sense of filling up the whole.
Filling up the whole. You expressed it so well, and it's filling up the way, embodying. Isn't it fun?
Yeah.
Just hang out. We're gonna lean into you. We're all gonna lean into you right now. The best way of learning any of this is leaning into the speaker.
And as you do that, it intensifies the experience. It makes it fuller. It makes it more like the light is denser.
Yep, the light is denser, full is fuller. The open is more open.
Hmm. The sphere gets bigger.
Bigger's better.
Can I say one thing?
Yes.
Because I was working on your paper around languaging this experience and how different it is from the mental word. Yeah. And I really experienced that the words rise up like a vibration from this pool of energy and light. It's so different than speaking from the mind, the little mind.
Totally different thing. Not a big topic, but isn't it different? Little mind.
Right.
What it opens up for us, how understanding flows. Thank you so much. Let's pass it to the lady on the right over there. How are you doing?
amazing. A lot. With everyone that speaks, I get a different experience, which has been really interesting. It's been like a little journey. When Juliet was speaking, I really felt that sensuality she was talking about, but the way that it manifested was like, it's almost hard to describe. It was like fire, but in a circle, almost like a pinwheel in my heart, but going counterclockwise. And it was really intense. And then more smaller pinwheels started to develop going up and down my body, but they were all kind of like fire, like heat.
Those are little tiglays.
Yeah. Cool. It was really neat, but it really, it felt, I mean, obviously it felt really good. And then when Steve was sharing, I picked up on your anxiety in the beginning. And but then when you shifted out of that, and so Rudy, after Juliet, as soon as you started speaking, I felt like a chasm open up. It was like a lot less fire, and it was almost like not cool, but spaciousness with a chasm opening, like a, I don't know, it's hard to describe.
That is symbolic language.
Yeah.
It is that dimension that we
Yeah. It went like blue and dark and cool. All of the fire disappeared. Yeah.
It's a symbolic dimensional thing.
That was cool. So then when Steve shifted, everything else changed a lot. And all of a sudden, I felt this well sort of developing, like a dark, deep well in my base, like you were talking about, sort of with almost like a drain at the bottom, if that makes sense, with a little light at the bottom. But it was like this very grounding, really nice feeling of feeling grounded in that energy. And then when Carol started speaking, I just heated up a lot, like you were talking about. And before you even said that, I started to feel so much heat. And the cool thing is that as you kept speaking, I felt it a lot in my back, which is unusual for me. I felt a big opening in my back and then heat coming out of my back, sort of a radiant heat. But what I was feeling is what you're talking about, which is just this feeling of being really whole. And for me, what that feels like is, to use the word you used earlier, Rudy, the cessation of thingness, the cessation of anxiety. And for me, it's like, that is liberation in general. It's
That is liberation.
so good.
It's thingness. But also, that's why with each other, light is coming through us.
Mhm.
That's right. It comes through, and then you start feeling your back opening up.
Mhm.
The back
Mhm.
opening up actually allows the energy not just to be so cooked.
Mhm.
It starts going out, but also the energy is going to start coming through your back. So
Mm.
when you're doing extensions,
Mm.
it's not like you're using your very life force. You with me?
Mhm.
Rather, your body's becoming a vehicle of
Mhm.
energy, so it comes right through your open, and it goes and
Mhm.
it will go into situations.
It feels really amazing. It's obviously hard to describe. I'm sure everyone here knows what I'm talking about, but it feels really, really good.
It feels, that's why the yogis say, amazing.
It really does.
Whoa.
It feels like a hug. I keep saying that, but I feel like I'm like in this big, beautiful womb of life, just like feel embraced.
The word womb,
Mhm.
and then it goes back to the word, the matrix, or the womb.
Mhm.
Also, that's part of the title
Cool.
of the Gurdjieff Tantra. This womb, this
Mhm.
matrix. And it's
Yeah.
felt sense.
Mhm.
That's why the love of the felt sense
Mhm.
is really great.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's
cool.
Check where your mom's at right now. I'm gonna go a little fast down so everybody's at. Just
Sorry.
check where everybody at. So there's gonna go make both happen to everybody. Where you at?
From the talk, I arose the desire to have more, when you were talking about the light, circles of light, to have more perception and invoking Nityananda. And then what's occurred is a shift in my perception that has happened. I mean, it's lasting this whole time. And it's like an awareness of the vibration in the light in the room permeating everything, and that it's almost like if you open a dam and the water comes to the other side. It's like it all entered into me, but it was already there. And so the inside and the outside are in that oneness together, and there's a vibratory quality and a spark of light quality. There's a lot of radiance, and it feels very complete. And as each person shares, there's that who-ness responding to the who-ness in that completeness.
Thank you so much. You're sort of passing this to, but just tell me about it. You're saying something today for that.
I'm having this wonderful sense, very much like what you described, of being in and out, and like sometimes the voices are coming from very far away, and just absorbing in me, like just metabolizing in me, and sometimes there's just this direct opening of an insight, and then it's just like back again. It's like moving back into the energy and moving kind of up and forward into the energy, I'm really feeling, as a result of the last few sessions where it's just gone so deep for me physically, this opening in my throat, my head, but this today is very much in and out, very in and out.
Thank you so much.
I'm with that, I'm going to call it disintegration of mental beliefs and the mental beliefs that get kind of, I'm going to call it, tangled up with emotions and sadness, and then I'm also with the openings that people are talking about. And there was something that you said, I don't remember what it was, but there was this wonderful moment where my mind just kind of opened up. I'm just going to call it into an open space, and it went beyond all of this stuff.
Thank you so much.
Extremes.
It's just all the same. You're a wide range person.
I'm experiencing a great light all through my torso, and it feels like the room, everyone in the room is like we're in a giant cloud that we're sitting on, a cloud of energy, and sometimes I see the little tongues of fire over people's heads like at Pentecost. But then I pop out of it. I pop back into my mind and I start analyzing, and then I calm down and I go back into my heart and I feel the light again. So it's in and out, and yeah.
I've sort of been sitting on the doorstep of sleep and not falling asleep, but feeling this kind of intoxication that swallows you when you start to fall into sleep. And there's this kind of liquidy darkness that's like shimmering and sparkling with all these tiny points of neon color. And some imagery will arise, and it doesn't have any ordinary importance, but its importance is that it's there. And it just keeps slowly shifting and changing. And the forms are all beautiful, and none of them have a particular meaning. So I'm just sort of been turning that over and over.
Thank you. And Patricia behind you.
the entire time today, there's been a powerful energy that's pervading my whole being. It's in every cell, and I can tell it's in my subtle bodies as well. And at times it is working on a particular place. Like right now, it's just underneath my heart, but it's everywhere at the same time. And the quality to this energy is very sensuous and yet not associated with any of the physicality of sensuality, although I could go there if something happened, but make it versatile that way. And it's also a soaring. It's a soaring. I am absolutely soaring. And underneath all of that, there is a pristine stillness and silence.
Thank you so much.
And interestingly, at times, my tongue will be guided to a particular position. Sometimes it goes to the top. Sometimes it needs to go to the bottom. And it's very specific how that work is being done.
Thank you so much. When you weren't here, we weren't focusing on the tongue at times of the Kachara Mudra. Great, thanks.
I've been experiencing the wildness of compassion and the blue man. The blue man, and I won't go into it because we don't have time, but the blue man has been coming in for several weeks, and I didn't know who this was, and you spoke of him today, so thank you.
Thank you so much. We just focus on him, welcoming him, the blue person. Thank you so much. Marilyn?
I have to let the blue man go here. I've just been sitting in this wonderful, wonderful breathless breath, and yet it's breathing above my head all the time. It's kind of a being in two places, but overall there's just this sensing of desire to jump into not danger, but total unknown and love it. Does that make sense? Just like, yeah, bring it on. And, but nothing in particular. It's just that expansive feeling of everything. Yeah.
Beautifully, beautifully, beautifully described and evoked it all.
Having started the day with Mr. Ma, I'm left with this amazing energy through my entire arms, which is not unlike the embrace of the heat that we're experiencing in the summertime. And it feels just great. Yeah.
Mr. Ma's great.
So what I'm experiencing is a tightness around my core. I mean, my core being my being. But I do see a membrane that's out further. It's still close in. And I guess what I'm seeing more than feeling is that maybe that seaweed is getting enough light through to grow a little bit.
I'm aware of a pulsation, and it at times it's more intense in certain places than others, and it also changes in its vibratory quality. Like sometimes it's rapid and sometimes it's slow, and I'm particularly aware of it at the soles of my feet and the palms of my hands at different times.
I have felt just, excuse me, drenched with light on my left side, and like immersed in darkness on my right side. and my right eye feels like it's on fire with the brightness of this dark light. And it's just like big, really big. And I can feel everybody in the room, and that just is really intensifying the sensations I'm having.
Beautifully described. Luminous dark trouble. One metaphor.
Yeah, I have been interesting resting in darkness. It's been a very restful place today, very still, very dark, very expansive. Yeah, just such stillness. It's not a scary darkness. It's a restful darkness and a peaceful darkness.
Ever since you started talking about Padmasambhava, I had an opening in which I invoked him. Not the elements, not the devas, the dakinis, but just to invoke the almost the Nirmanakaya aspect. Yeah. And even though, what was that, over 1,000 years ago, I feel the fleshiness of the energy coming in as well as the light, and it gave me a key so that as everybody speaks, I'm able to integrate and metabolize my thoughts and the mind and pull their experience along into my experience. It's duality, non-duality, because I sometimes feel it, sometimes don't exactly, but I always feel the oneness in it. And it feels like a new discovery that I can do this and not lose myself in the other person and their experience. Yeah. And I just discovered that as I said it. And the other thing that I'm so wonderfully with right now is the marvel at where did that thought to do that come from? That's the arising and the unfolding of pure awareness. It wasn't my own, let's do the discipline practice. It was, I can do this. Self-arising. Yes, of me, not of me.
That is the great confidence.
Yeah.
That is the great confidence.
Yeah. And I want to thank everybody here, because you all made that possible. I don't know how, but it arose magnificently. So thank you.
I've been experiencing an incredible integration of everything, times, places, physical, thoughts, memories, dimensions. I saw my own skeleton and it made me smile. It's been an amazing fullness, rapid movement, light and dark, everything.
Thank you so much.
Today I've been feeling much more of a verticality in that, and it's funny, it's almost a steeliness, but it's not a closed steeliness. And then it changed, changed when Amy spoke. I just felt this heart opening and the heart and the strength, and all of us, I don't know if it's World Wrestling or whatever, but I had this imagining of, how these cartoon characters, like all of a sudden they're exploding out of their clothes and all they're strong and everything, and that's sort of how I'm feeling. but Amy brought the heart in, so I'm not going to beat anybody up, I don't think.
Today I've been feeling the stillness and calm in my boundary and around and inside, just a churning of apprehension and anxiety and agitation. But it's it's like in a jar, held by what's around.
Amy, that was really helpful. I definitely have been having my own experience, a lot of vortexual and then still, and then as everyone spoke, going out and having that experience and all these different things coming through, but at this, and they influence what's going on in me, but nevertheless, it's a whole different, very, very vortexual process going on. So that's really lovely description, Amy. Thank you.
I've been having, I want to say loads of body sensations, but it's more flowing. It's kind of, there's no, I feel like there's a show going on inside of me, and things are moving, and it's prickly, but it feels good, and like light all over, bursts of light, and just a lot of energy, like almost vortexual. Yeah, feel good. Yeah.
Well, maybe it's a vortexual corner over here. The words that came to me was like this energetic body experience is like being a washing machine. It's just moving, the energy is moving, and the psychological atmosphere is negative. But in this larger context of the presence of the basement, there's no investment in the psychological negative. So it's more being and witnessing at the same time without indulging it further in story.
Thank you so much.
So I've been embracing and being embraced by the invitation to go further.
So we close our eyes for a second. So to end up, I thank everybody. Also, I think I mentioned Krishna Das will be, I think it's August 20th at Lama Norla's Monastery. That should be lots of fun. You can register online. And there's also Vajrakalaya Empowerment, I believe at the Padmasambhava Center. I don't think it's taken place already. The one in New York State. And it's really a pretty great empowerment to have. And we'll rest for a second. I think my friend will be coming next week. The person who, when we started the process of, if I could remember the process, of, he would write the letters, and I would read the letters as a, and I think it might be coming next Wednesday. Great. Thank you guys, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you a lot. We can rub our hands together, place it on our heart. And I really love what's happening for all of us right now. Great. And to our friends on the internet, yeah, I forgot to talk to you guys too. But we'll do that next week. Oh, there we are. Good. Nice to see you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Take it easy. Who'll be here next week? Anybody be here next week? Yeah. Anybody? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Great, that's fine. I like about having 8 people. That's how every week I ask that. Oh, cool. That's probably part of the reason why there's so
That is just, that's it. It's good words.
Can you turn off the camera? Yes, I can. Just put stop. Yeah, you can just press stop, Rose. That would do it. Stop.
They were so